Hey guys, making another video today. I wasn't sure at first what to make this video on after the one I made yesterday. Today is 6/24/25. I was thinking today about making the video about friends and family. And this time I suppose I'll make it more of a personal video rather than talking about things in the world or certain concepts in the Bible. To be honest, I don't really have any friends, and I feel very I didn't really want to make this video because I just hate to say out loud, but I feel very little to no connection to my family either that I have. I don't know if it's because I'm in some sort of state that I shouldn't be in or what, but I guess I'll start with family first. One thing I want to highlight is that nobody's family is perfect. At some point in your life, someone in your family is going to make you angry or do something you think is wrong or whatever it is. Now, I can't say whether or not that means you should go back to interacting with them, but it is the right thing to do to forgive them and move on. You should not hold hatred towards someone or some sort of grief for a family member because of something they did. It will only cause you problems, especially spiritually, if you hold on to some sort of, like I said, grief or anger towards someone. Again, I don't know if in whoever's particular situation you should go back to talking to them or not. There's some situations where you shouldn't, and there's some where you should. But instead of me giving you a definitive answer, the answer I can give on that is to go pray about it. That's really where you're only going to get the only answer that is the correct one, is from God. So it's not easy, especially for someone like me who I really just don't feel a connection to family, to be honest. It's hard because as a man who's trying to become Christianing, I was my whole life, but I was obviously, when I was younger, I was a fake Christian. I was just in name because my family was, when I was growing up and stuff. As I grow up now and try to actually become a man of God, it's just sometimes very difficult to overlook the things that your family does. Not because it's not like exactly things that they do to you directly. It's just things that you know to be wrong that they're doing. So personally, I really don't know what to do in that situation, which is my situation. I just find that something all of you should try to do is learn not to hate others for saying their sin. Because obviously, if you do that, you'll forget that you're a sinner yourself. So you shouldn't just focus on other people's sins. And that's what I'm working on right now, honestly, is trying to not look at others' sins and feel like disgust or something like that. whether it be through trauma in the past, or I just think it's very wrong due to my own personal experience and story. I felt like there were some things that should be very easy to avoid, but in reality, for some others, it's not easy to avoid. You gotta remember that, one thing that you struggle with is completely different from what other people struggle with, because nobody's experiences that shape them, mentally is going to be 100% the exact same. So there's not going to be someone who both struggles exactly what with you do and exactly how you struggle with it. You're not going to find someone who's the exact 100% same. So it's very difficult when seeing that stuff, and you don't know whether or not really to interact with those people again. You see, especially, I don't want to put down my family, because I know I'm a sinner myself. I'm not some great man. I'm not whatever, but it's just hard seeing them constantly be like, yeah, we're a Christian, we're ready for the return of Christ, or whatever it is, and then, next family gathering, they're all getting drunk, they're all, alcoholics, they're all saying and doing things that are very wrong and approving of wrong that others are doing in the family as well. So it's just very difficult, I guess, to look past that. It's one thing to claim to be Christian and then do all that stuff, versus not claiming to be Christian and doing all that stuff. It's the same thing Paul said, and I believe it was Romans 2 or 3, where he says how much better it is to be one who is uncircumcised, who does not break the law, versus those who are circumcised, the Jews, who could not uphold the law. So it's, very difficult to look past, people who claim to uphold what is right and then do so much wrong. You have to sort of reflect on yourself in that situation, realizing, I do wrong as well. Whether it be, laziness, lust, jealousy, whatever it is. You might not be, struggling with sin outwardly or physically, but your sin could be spiritual or mental. It's the same. You got to realize it's the exact same value of sin, quote unquote, because as it says, God sees all the sin the same, except for blasphemy against the Spirit. But that's what I struggle with, is realizing that mine's more inward. My sin and struggle is more inward and spiritual, rather than some sort of, physical sin. So it's just hard seeing people give into physical sin so easily, when I feel like I don't really struggle with that. So I guess I should say, be careful of becoming like I was, and, not saying it out loud, but hating on others in your heart, basically, for giving into different types of sin than you're used to committing. And the last thing I'll say on that is, I still am, finding it hard to want to reach out and talk to family. I just to be honest, I feel no desire to. I feel no real reason to. I know they've done quite a bit for me in the past, so I know there's, things I should be grateful for, but it's just very hard to feel a reason to reach out and interact again. So if someone watches this video, I'd be appreciative of any advice on that. And now for the second part, finally, which is friends. I've seen multiple videos on YouTube, especially lately, about, men who say, 23, I'm 24, I'm 25, and have no friends. And for the most part, it's been pretty solid advice, to be honest. Because it's like, as a religious man, you gotta understand that God's gonna take you away from some people. And that might end up being all the people, in order for Him to allow you to grow on your own before sending you out again. One very, 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 very important thing I want to say about that, though, is if God takes you away from people, namely friends in this instance, that does not mean your friends are worse people than you. That does not mean your friends are terrible, no good, evildoers who you should abhor. It just means you need to be alone for a season and grow with God alone. God might allow you to go back to those people, He might not. But you should not have in your heart to say or think that they were worse than me, or they were evil, no good people, so God took me away from them for that reason. Which is definitely what I struggled with at first. I don't think I struggled horribly bad with thinking they were just no good, terribly wrong evildoers, but I definitely could tell later on that I still did have sort of a feeling in my heart that they were like here and I was like right here. And I realized that was wrong. So it's very important to not let being made to be alone for a little while make you bitter towards the people you were once with. Secondly is the struggle of being alone. There are some days where honestly it's not really that difficult. I don't even really think about it honestly. As a man myself, one of my hobbies is gaming. I play games, and part of that can involve playing games with strangers on the internet. So it doesn't feel lonely all the time, not to mention during normal hours, daytime hours, I'm working with others, and then after work I'm going to the gym. So it's like I'm still seeing and being around people and interacting with people, just not people who I would call my actual friends, But then also there's days where it's very difficult, especially if you, like me, do not have a woman in your life or real friends to confide in. Usually for me, I have to deal with it with prayer. You're probably not gonna be able to deal with it in some other way than going to God about it. It's probably just it's not gonna work if you don't go to God about it. Usually when I pray about it, I'll still struggle maybe for the rest of the night with it, but usually by the next day I'm alright, And one of the things I've realized that God's shown me when struggling with loneliness with no friends is showing me all that I do have, and to be thankful for all that I do have. As you can see, I have my own place. I have the lights on. I don't know if you can hear it, but I have working AC. I have a TV right there, my computer back there. Like, I have a lot. I have a job. I have a car. I can go to a gym. So many things. This phone that I'm recording this video on. So I think one of the things he's wanted me to realize in taking away friends from me for a bit is to be thankful for what I do have and remembering him for giving it to me. Not just to be upset when something's taken away. It can be, I say that like it's easy, but it's not. There are going to be times where it's very difficult, but I cannot stress enough that just going off on your own and not praying about it and just trying to focus your attention on something else, like if you're a man, probably go do something with your hands for a while in order to calm down or whatever. It's not going to work. It might work for right then, but it's going to come right back the next day if you don't go to God about it. One of the things, I don't know if I've said it before in one of my videos, is Hosea 7:14, which says, "They do not cry out to me from their hearts, but instead they wail on their beds," which highlights something very important for all of us, especially as Christian people. Sometimes we don't want to go to God about it because we're afraid of the answer or whatever it may be. So we just kind of go off on our own trying to deal with it rather than to God, because we're either sad or angry or whatever it is. But ultimately, you'll come back to realize, hopefully not without a hard lesson first, that you're not going to get through it without him helping you. I suppose that's it for today. I hope everyone's doing alright, if anyone even sees this video. I just hope that you all have a good day.